Welcome to the Inspired Choices TV. I am your host, Christine McIver, and I'm excited to have you here with a wonderful guest this week again. So, Inspired Choices TV is all about bringing people together to share and converse about what it is they're doing in the world to create greater and how they're impacting others to create greater as well. If you're interested in learning more about the opportunity of being a guest on Inspired Choices TV, please email me at christine@inspiredchoices.ca. I would love to hear from you. Or if you know someone that you think would be a great guest, that you would love to hear their message out to the world even more, you can also email me at the same address. So today I have a woman who is creating greater and has been for many, many years. She is not only the mother of 3, she's also a nurse at one of the largest hospitals in Toronto. She is a radio show host. She is changing the face of so many things in her world and other people's world. And today's show is all about bullying. And we are going to be busting the lies of bullying for both children and adults alike. So please welcome my wonderful guest, Petrina Fava.
Hello.
Hi, Petrina.
Hi, Christine.
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad I'm here too.
You know, Petrina, you do so many things in the world, and I absolutely love all of the creations that you're doing and all of the people that you're impacting. But one of the things that really struck a chord with me so big was when you did your chapter in this wonderful book, right? Possibilities in Parenting, everyone. Wonderful book. And it was all about bullying. And it really shocked me in a great way how you see bullying from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. So in this reality, everybody is about jumping in and defending someone, right? And we're all taught to stand up for the little guy, mm-hmm. and to reach out when somebody needs help. And there's other possibilities in play. So tell all of our listeners, where did this start for you? I mean, obviously you're a mother of 3, but where did the whole bullying thing and a different reality start to percolate for you?
Mm-hmm. So it started when I started to learn about some tools that I used to change my life. And a lot of them, as I was learning them, I realized that these could be used to really empower kids and to really create something different with them and to give them control in their lives and to put control in their hands and to really empower them to create change. And so when I started to look around the playground at what was happening and what I was hearing from other parents, and also looking at myself and some of the ideas that I had about parenting and the issues that were coming up for me around bullying, I started to see where we were really making kids victims.
Okay, so wait,
Mm-hmm.
before you go.
Okay.
So how do we make kids victims?
Well, if you look at how bullying is viewed in this reality, it's like what you were talking about, right? There's a lot of us versus them, the bully versus the bullied.
Right.
The bully versus the victim. And a lot of programs that are in place are about teaching kids not to bully and teaching kids why it's wrong to bully. And I didn't really see a lot out there that was coming from a place that didn't judge the bully or didn't judge.
Okay, so I'm going to be the voice.
Yeah, go.
But Petrina, what they're doing is wrong.
I know, right?
And how else do we not change it if we don't focus on the bad behavior?
Right. So the idea of calling something bad or calling something good versus bad creates a lot of polarity, right? So when we come from a place of right or wrong or good and bad, and we get really emotionally charged about it, which bullying is really emotionally charged when we talk about it. We can't be clear about what's really happening because we take a side. We take the good side, or if maybe you're the parent of a bully, then you take the bully side. We're taking sides. And when you start to take sides, then you can't really see the truth. You can't see with a clear mind.
Because all you're seeing
is your judgment about what's right and what's wrong. And when you come from a place of right versus wrong, you already have a conclusion or you already have an idea of what's happening. You're making a decision. You're making a conclusion.
Right.
And then you can't be clear about the truth of the situation, which then doesn't really allow you to choose how to respond.
Right.
Because you're clouded.
Okay, so I'm sure that everyone out there at some point or time has felt bullied. Have you ever felt bullied?
I have felt bullied. Yeah, I felt bullied.
So what happened with how old were you? A child or an adult?
I felt when I was a kid, I felt I can't say that I felt bullied in the sense that I was being pushed around, but I did feel neglected or ignored or teased and made fun of. It was never a physical kind of bullying,
right?
But I did feel alone and like pushed out of place a lot when I was a kid. And I automatically internalized that and thought something's wrong with me.
Right.
Because, of course, why would people ignore me if there was not something wrong with me?
Right.
And I was always told by the adults in my life to just ignore it, or to just turn the other cheek, or to just don't worry, just ignore it. Which I find is really interesting because we teach children not to bully, or we teach kids to be kind to others and not to hurt others. But then when the tables are turned and you're in the receiving end of unkindness, then we tell them, don't worry, just ignore it.
Just ignore it. That's interesting. When I was young, I was probably about, I'm going to say 10 or 12 or something. I remember the popular girl, and I grew up in a very small village, so if she's watching this, you'll know who you are. But I remember very clearly I had these really pretty pink pants. We weren't, where I grew up, I was in a Catholic school, and we weren't allowed to wear jeans, right? But I had these really pretty pink, they were nearly like a corduroy but softer pants, and I loved these pants. But I must have gone through a growth spurt, and suddenly they're not long enough. But I was only like, oh, I have my nice pants on, right? And I remember being at school outside at recess, and she noticed that I had grown, right? But you know what she said? Oh, look at the flood pants Christine's wearing, ha, 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 ha. And that moment is still so crystal clear for me. I could physically feel all of me, like my joy, my hopes, and my body just go like this. Let's shrink away. And I didn't know what to do except to run and hide. Right? And so how many of us out there are actually running and hiding? Or, and this is where I really do want to go as well, besides the children, as the adults, is we go into fight. We go into defense, which is, we have one of two ways of operating, one of two ways that we're taught in this world. For the most part, this is where it's like the fight or flight, right? It's like those are the only things that are available to us, right?
Right. So a lot of it is shrinking. Like what you're describing is that pulling away, which is a lot of what I can relate to, because I know that I did that a lot when I was a kid, is I just would shrink.
Right.
I'm wearing my pink pants and it feels good and I'm awesome and I don't care. And then somebody says one thing and all of a sudden you can just feel your whole world just totally contract.
It's like we're all soufflés.
We're also, you just like deflate. Right.
Yeah.
And so the thing is, with some of these tools that I have learned is, what if we could show kids that when we feel these things, we don't have to own these feelings. And
Petrina, how do I not own that I felt, bullied?
Right. So it's the idea that we are all extremely perceptive and we really can pick up on a lot of other people's feelings. And it's a little bit of an out there concept, but I mean, you can probably think of a lot of situations where you've walked into a room and you have really felt a shift or a change, and you somebody's fighting, and you can feel it in your body, but it's not yours. So if this is something
because your eyes, for most of us, it's because our eyes are telling us it's someone else's.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you an example. So, like a lot of times, heading to a funeral, right? So I went to one of my girlfriend's father's funerals. I didn't know him at all. It was someone that I worked with, and I was in the car with my husband, and we were like listening to music, and we were in a great mood, and we weren't sad because we didn't really know him. And
you're just there.
I was there to support my friend, and so we were like chatting, and we were in a good mood. And then I really clearly remember walking into that room, and suddenly the heaviness of the grief was just so, I could really feel it impacting my body, and the sudden shift in my mood. And I remember going up to the casket and like crying, like really crying, and I'm thinking to myself, am I crazy? I don't know this guy, like what am I doing? And I just couldn't control myself. I was just crying. And so, you know, how much of that was really my awareness of what everyone else was feeling, and my ability to perceive all of that, and to you know, empathize with others. And how much do kids have that capacity? Oh my God, they really have that capacity, because they haven't unlearned it yet. And so
they haven't unlearned awareness.
They have not unlearned to be aware. And I think as adults, we have unlearned that. We are told that our awareness, our feelings, or anything that we know is not real, right? Like
So if we are feeling it, then it's ours.
We just are taught, or we decide at some point that if we're feeling it, it's ours. One of the examples from my chapter in the book is that my 5-year-old son, possibilities, my son, who was I think 4 or 5 at the time, came home one day and said, "Mommy, my heart hurts." And I was like, I'm a nurse, right? So I'm like, "You're having chest pain? Like what?" And he was like, "No, you know, Mommy, when somebody says something mean to you and your heart hurts." And he said it in a way that was not, he was kind of faking it.
And was there did it sound like he was questioning it too?
Yeah, he was kind of like, yes. It was like he was trying to bring this idea to my attention.
Okay.
I said, "Oh, okay, where?"
And how old's your son?
He's 6 now. He was like 4, I think, at the time.
4
kindergarten.
at the time.
Kindergarten. "Mommy, my heart hurts. My heart hurts, Mommy." And I was like, "Okay, what does that mean?" Like, "You know, Mommy, when someone says something mean to you and it leaves a black mark on your heart." And I went, "Oh, where did you hear that? Where did you hear that? Or where did you come up with this idea?" And he said, "Oh," and then his demeanor changed very suddenly.
Right.
And he said, "Oh, my teacher told me." And he skipped off and he went to play with his Legos. And I went, "Oh, wow." And I thought, that's cool. That's interesting. Like, I can imagine that I knew his teacher, and I knew she was a very sweet woman, and I can imagine that she would be telling them, you know, it's not right to be mean to each other, because when you say mean things, it can really hurt someone's heart, and it leaves like a black mark on your heart. And my initial reaction was, "Oh, why would she say something like that? Like, what do you do? Why are you putting ideas in my kid's head about impacting your body and impacting your heart?" But it was interesting that he just said it and didn't really give it any more thought, and then skipped away and went to play. But it really made me look at what are some of the things that we say to kids that start to create beliefs in them that they didn't have previously.
Right.
Or that maybe someone said something mean to them and they were like, whatever, and they went to play with their Legos. We were like, "Oh, are you okay? Oh, that was so mean." And then the kids go, "Oh, I'm supposed to be hurt?" And it doesn't mean that they don't have feelings of their own, but how often do we push, or do we say without the intention of hurting our kids, or things that are our point of view, or our beliefs, or our perspectives?
Oh my gosh.
And then we push that idea onto them, and they start to, that we're their parents, and they love us, and so they go, "Oh, well, Mom must be right." So, and then next time someone's mean, they go, oh, that hurts my heart. Yeah. So, you know, and I'm not trying to say that they don't have real feelings or anything like that, but how much do we push our ideas onto them that then gets them creating their beliefs? And this is how we unlearn to trust our awareness.
Right. It's really funny. I got to tell this really little story of how so easy for us to pick up the beliefs of others. So I was, as I said, I grew up in this little village, right, in just outside of Stratford, Ontario, and there was like seven houses, a church, and a school, and we were the only little kids in the village, right? And so we would actually go to the school all the time. I had lots of older brothers and sisters, and we would go to the school. My younger brother and I would go to the school every day at all of the recesses and play. And in fact, there was a time when the nuns actually allowed me to pretend I was like them, and I would walk behind them in the classroom, and I'd be like looking at all of my older siblings' work, and as if I could. That's not a very good. You need to do that differently, right? They did this whole thing. Totally comfortable with being at the school,
right?
Okay. The day comes that I'm to start school. right? Somewhere, someone said something to me, and I'm crying. I don't want to go to school by myself.
Yes.
And I'm begging my mother to take me to school, and she looks at me like, go get down there. You go there every day. What are you talking about? I was in such a huge emotional place with this, and they were mine, right? Those were my emotions, but it wasn't true.
Mm-hmm.
Because just like I buy somebody else's, used vehicle, I bought somebody else's used belief.
Yeah. And that's a great example because I still see that all the time in the kindergarten classroom. And how often do kids are fine, you drop them off. Have you ever seen the cascade, the domino effect of one kid is crying and the other one starts and I want my mommy, then the other one's, the other one beside is totally fine. All of a sudden he wants his mommy, and then all of a sudden the next one wants, and the whole classroom is crying. They're so perceptive of each other's feelings.
Right, we pick up everything.
Yes, and they're aware of each other's feelings. So like when you were crying that you didn't want to go by yourself, was that really yours, or were you really aware of the intense feelings in all in that room of all the kids who really wanted to go home?
And the expectation. I started this before I even got to the classroom. But the expectation of this is how can you imagine the teachers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we go again. Another, how many are going to be crying for their mothers this time, right? Mm-hmm. All of that.
Yeah.
So, and that is a form of bullying as well, where we're inputting somebody else's belief system.
Right.
Right?
And the thing with the bully, and I think that what the point of all of this thing about being aware of other people's feelings is when you're in a situation where someone is bullying you or being aggressive towards you and you get this flood of feelings and emotions, is it possible that you're actually aware of that person, the bully? Are you aware of what's happening in their world and you feel this like weird, tight energy contraction, and is that really yours? Or is it possible that you're aware of that person who's bullying you and all the crazy that's going on in their world, or the emotions that they're having, or something that's going on for them at home? It sounds crazy, but if we could acknowledge children for what they know and for their ability to perceive others, and then give them that tool. And
so what tool would you give?
So the tool is this really mine? When you're feeling this all of what you're feeling coming at you when somebody is being aggressive towards you, is that yours or is that theirs? Are you aware of the energy that they're pushing at you? Are you just aware of it?
Right. But Petrina, they're pushing me. They're physically pushing me. They're stealing my food. Mm-hmm. They're screaming at me. They're being mean with their words.
Right.
So how do I, as a child, both not take it on and deal with that?
Right. So the other thing is that we can teach kids to ask some questions, and instead of protecting them and saying, "Oh, that's so awful, you poor thing." So it's not okay for somebody to push you. And I always teach my kids that. It's not okay for somebody to put their hands on you. That's your body. You're in charge of your body. It's not okay. It's absolutely not okay.
Right.
But if we teach kids to ask a question, ask themselves a question, okay, like what can I do right now? Can I tell my teacher? And if I do, what's that going to create? Can I punch the kid in the stomach? And if I do, what's that going to create? Can I, can I walk away? And if I do, what's that going to create? So it sounds complex, and we don't have to say it in a complex way to kids.
Right.
But if we can at least avoid the temptation to rescue them and to tell them that they're these poor little things, and actually
that they have no power.
That they have no power. And that's, in the book, I looked up the word bullying, and it was so interesting to see how we define bullying in a dictionary. It talks about power, a stronger person having power over a weaker person. Well, wow, that's great. We just told our kids that they're a weaker person because they're being bullied. And it's a lie. It's a lie.
Right.
I know, I've been a pediatric nurse for 19 years, and I know that with every cell of my body that kids are not weak. They're strong little buggers, and they are resilient. And it's not true that kids are weak, no matter what you see. Even if they're small and they're scrawny and they are appearing to be meek, they have potency and they have power and they have capacity. So to tell them, oh, that's so awful, let's go talk to the principal, instead of empowering them with tools and saying, hey, you know what, nobody has power over you. I don't care if he's 2 feet taller than you. There are other ways besides physical ways to change this.
Right.
You know, what if we could teach kids how to manipulate the situation?
Right.
Right? But the thing is, we need to teach
them. They
to
need
ask.
to know first.
They need to know first. And that's, thank you, because my other really strong point is that we need to empower them at home. We need to allow them to make choices, and we need to allow them to own their power at home, which can be really uncomfortable as a parent.
Been there, done that, yes.
Oh yeah, I'm living it right now.
Right.
So, you know, it's not a walk in the park to have strong, empowered kids, I can tell you. Because
they call you on your stuff, right?
They totally call you on your stuff. They keep you accountable. They show you all of your judgments and all of your limitations. They show them to you.
Right.
And it's really easy to parent from a place of control. Hey, you know what? Because I said so, that's why. Because I'm the parent, that's why. And that's not to say that sometimes that might be required. But it's not always comfortable to have kids who are empowered and empower your kids at home, so that they know with every ounce of their being that they are in control, then they can make choices that creates their lives. Not just, well, at home you have to listen to mommy and follow my rules, but you know, when you go to school, you better stand up to that bully. Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
It does not work.
You know, Petrina, right now at this time and space in the world, there is a lot going on with regards to violence, with regards to racism, with regards to fighting and defending, right? And I just really want to talk about that for just a couple of minutes, because what in thinking about our conversation today, you know, I was looking at what's going on in the world with the adults, with the adults that have been raised the way you and I were raised, the way that we were initially raising our children, right? Mm-hmm. With, you know, fight, right? And what that's actually creating. There's a lot of amazing people in the world that are really inviting us to look at this differently, right? I saw a video yesterday of, I'm sorry, I can't remember the guy's name, but he's a singer, a country singer, a black country singer.
And, I think I know.
And he actually did a video teaching black men what to do if they should be stopped by the police. Okay. And a lot of people, it was a great video. It was very, very simple and simple. And he said why. And he said, look, here's a police officer, you know, they're out there trying to protect their lives as well. And this is what, you know, they may interpret, which is possibly not true. And a lot of people commented and said, why should we have to do that? You know, this should be the same for white people. And he said, you're right. But this is about getting everybody home safe. So it's about making a different choice. And what I loved about it was there was no, like, I didn't pick up on him talking about anyone being victims, right? He was really about, look, if we're going to change this, let's start changing it. First and foremost is let's be safe. Right? So how do we start to really change the bully, defense, fight mentality that's out there with all of these adults all around the world? And we are two white chicks talking about this. I get that. But I'm also aware that there are a lot of people that are stepping up. You know, Snoop Dogg did an amazing thing. Oh my God. There's so many amazing people stepping up and saying this requires it to change.
Yes, and I think it's awesome, and it might sound terrible, but I think what's happening right now is awesome, because I think it's really, I know, but you know what? It's all of the lies and the crap that people have perpetuated, and the unkindness that people have been perpetuating. It is so bubbling to the surface like never before, and thank God, because it's time for it to change. And I think people have had it. And people are starting to realize that fighting is not working, because how long have we been fighting and standing up for rights and fighting and standing up for rights? And it's this idea of judgment and separation, and we've been doing this for centuries. And hello, it's not working.
Yeah.
And
how many more people?
How many more people have to die? How many more people have to be killed? How many before this changes? Like, how can we create something different? So what I've been really aware of over the last few weeks with everything that's been happening around the world is how much the crazy irony of how much we are trying to create unity and oneness and togetherness and equality by separating ourselves into groups.
Right.
Us versus them.
Right.
The bullies versus the victims. The people who are being persecuted versus the people who are doing the persecution.
Right.
We're trying to create togetherness and oneness and unity, but we're separating ourselves into groups and fighting. It's not working.
It's not working.
So the first thing that we need to do is get out of judgment. And it might sound crazy, but if you drop the right and you drop the wrong, and you just look at everything from a place of, okay, this is interesting. This is interesting. What do I know? What do I know here? If I wasn't judging this as right and I wasn't judging this as wrong, what would I be aware of that's really happening? And when you can ask that question, the clouds part and you can see the
start
truth.
To see.
And then you can ask a question. This is what I'm aware of. Now, what can I choose now? What choice can I make? How can I respond to this that would create something greater?
Right. That would start to lessen the intensities.
Yeah, and that would create. How can we create oneness? How can we create togetherness? Forget the right and forget the wrong. And the thing you were saying too is about. It's not about. What did you say? It's not about. Yes, it's not right that we should have to do this.
No,
right.
But it's about survival
not right
now.
But it's about survival. So the question is. Do you want to be right, or do you want to create a change?
Yeah.
Do you want? If you're attached to your rightness, then you're it's like the horse with the blinders.
Yeah,
you've only
got
looking
one.
here. You can't see what's really possible, and you can't see truly what's required to change things.
Right.
So if you drop your need to be right, then that's when you can be in the place to really start changing things.
Petrina, I think you and I could do this a few
Yes.
times. We're a little turned on by this conversation.
A little bit.
Because we've seen what's going on, and we want to make a change.
Yeah.
And we are.
And we are.
So we have to wrap up, unfortunately. But I have 5 questions for you that I would like to ask you.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite inspirational quote, and how has it influenced you in your life?
Oh, what is my favorite inspirational quote? Well, one that I just was aware of was by Rumi, and now I hope I don't get it wrong. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop. And I think that speaks to everything that's happening in the world right now. You're not a drop in the ocean. You are actually the entire ocean in a drop. And so we are not just 2 white chicks here talking in the world. We are actually the whole world. We are every single person, black, white, purple, green. We are all of it. And I think that speaks to...
I love that.
Yeah.
And how has it influenced you?
Well, it is making me see that everything is within me. I am those black people who have been persecuted for many years. I am these kids who are being bullied. I am all of it. I'm not separate, right? Because I'm not just this white chick who's never experienced that. I am all of it, and when I can acknowledge that I am everything, then I can begin to impact change. And there's not this us and them separation.
Right.
I'm not just a drop
in
the ocean. Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to have to write that one down. What inspires you to get out of bed in the morning?
This morning?
Sure.
Just today?
Yeah, just today.
I was coming here. What inspires me to get out of bed in the morning? Because I know that there's so much that's possible that I haven't tapped into yet. And I just know. I know that I can create change, and I have so much in me that can create change, and I'm not going to give up even when I wake up and I feel like I just want to go back to sleep.
Go back to sleep. Yes, I get that. What has been the most surprising thing that you've chosen in your life?
A radio show.
So Petrina's radio
it's not
show.
that surprising, but kind of surprising.
Petrina's radio show is Messy Adventures in Living, and she's brilliant.
Thanks.
I love your.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised because I like to talk. So, but I never really imagined that I would be doing it. Or I think the most surprising thing is actually how much fun I have doing it and how much it contributes to my life, actually.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
One of the favorite things that I love is that your willingness to talk about anything that's going on with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I can hear the pennies dropping as you're talking
Yes.
for you.
And that's why it's a huge contribution to my life. And I love talking about things that I don't know about because I get to learn about them while I'm talking on the video. It's awesome.
It's a really cool creation.
It's
I
good.
love it. So what is your greatest secret to creating the life you have?
Getting out of judgment of me. Getting out of judgment of me. Has been my biggest wall, my biggest limitation, my biggest stopping factor. And it applies, I think, to bullying, is getting out of judgment of you. Because if somebody tells you, judges you for something, and you know with every answer you're being that it's not true, you're like, what are you talking about? Getting out of judgment of me.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what name, other than the one you own, would you like to be called by?
The name Evelyn.
Evelyn.
I know, it's very fancy and
It's fancy.
dainty and
You want to be
classy.
fancy? I love that.
I do like my name, but I like Evelyn a lot.
Thank you so much, Petrina Evelyn. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Petrina, as we said, Possibilities in Parenting, and she's also an author in this phenomenal book, Creations, Conscious Fertility and Conception, Pregnancy, and Birth. It's a phenomenal chapter that just really touched me a lot. So you can...
And there's one more.
And there's
we
one
just
more.
don't have it here.
What's the name
It's
of it?
called The Power of Releasing Judgment.
And so where can people check out all of your creations? What's your website?
It's petrinafava.com.
So it's P-E-T...
Oh, yes.
E-R-I-N-A.
Oh, no. P-E-T. Don't spell my name wrong. Petrinafava.com.
Sorry.
That's okay. We've only known each other for
A
long time.
The typing and what comes out of my mouth is often two different things. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for that amazing chapter about bullying, because it is busting the lies. And what a phenomenal contribution that chapter is, and you are.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Keep being your brilliant self.
I will.
Thank you, everyone, so much for joining us today. Who do you know that this show and the conversation with Petrina could change the way that they are being with themselves, with others around them, or with their children? What contribution can all of us be making in the world when we're willing to drop the judgment and ask more questions? You can make a difference just by a choice, just one simple choice. Thank you so much. Please tune in next week where we'll have another inspiring guest who's creating greater in the world. Bye for now.